Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Welcome to a special double-header edition of Around the Turnbuckle. I'm the Big Albowski. That guy right there is the flashing bulb of wisdom, Professor Keith.
Hi, everybody.
And joining us is the SWO Hall of Famer, the living horror, Suicide Meyers. What's up?
Not too much. Not too bad for a Sunday.
Unbelievable. Great to talk to you, of course. Obviously, Keith and I have seen you wrestle many times. We are big fans of yours and of your work, and we'll get into all that. But right now, man, I want to ask you, tell us a story of where wrestling came into your life.
It was probably around when I was about 9 or 10. The kids in school were like, "Yo, did you watch SmackDown?" I'm like, "What's that?" And, so I had to check it out, and I jumped on the bandwagon, and I saw The Undertaker, and that was it. I was hooked.
Undertaker, did you hear that, Keith?
I did. Undertaker is the gateway drug.
He absolutely is. So, I mean, you were hooked on The Undertaker, as Keith was too before you. And definitely it kind of shows you your character. You also strike me as a horror film guy because, I mean, Suicide Meyers from Haddonfield, Illinois. We know that other Meyers guy from Haddonfield, Illinois, right?
That's right.
Professor also is a big movie fan. He's, big Friday the 13th guy, and Mike Myers, make no mistake about it, one of the most iconic.
All the stuff.
Yeah. Very iconic. David Motorman, big fan of SWO, says Sunday night doubleheader, Fright Night Around the Turnbuckle begins with the living horror, always intimidating, dominating, and a pleasure to witness his ring presence. Time to enjoy his story.
Oh, thank you.
So, as a kid, you watch SmackDown. You were kind of intrigued by the Undertaker. Okay, so at a certain point, you started to thinking that you started to go in the direction of, I want to get in the ring. I want to do this. Where did that happen for you?
I can remember the day specifically. It was 2 days after my 11th birthday. I was cleaning up my bedroom, and I had SmackDown versus Raw 2007 on the menu on my PlayStation. And I just sat there, and I kind of had a moment where I just I don't know, I said to myself, that's what I want to do. I want to be a pro wrestler. And I've been tunnel vision ever since.
Who says those SmackDown versus Raw games didn't have any value? I remember early on they used to get, destroyed critically because they didn't have anywhere near the depth of the prior SmackDown games. But there you go. There's living proof of, at least in one case, we can justify those games' existence.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I thought wrestling was real at the time. So
yeah,
I was trying to mentally prepare myself as an 11-year-old to have to face the Undertaker or get hit with chairs and things like that. And now, I mean, lo and behold, that stuff does hurt. But
yeah,
as a little kid, man, I just almost started putting myself into an anxiety attack, just thinking, "Oh man, how am I going to handle getting hit with this and doing that?"
Right, because you think it's a shoot, but then you find out it is hit hard, but it's hit hard in safe places.
Right. Yeah.
Chris Vance with us. What's up, Big Chris?
Hey, Chris.
So, did you seek out training? Did you know people? Were you already friends with wrestlers? How'd that start for you?
So I reached out to Ring of Honor school. I would have been about 15 or 16, and financially at the time, I was raised by a single mother, so that was out of the question. I couldn't travel 2 hours and some change 3 days a week to go to train there, plus the tuition was $3,000.
Yeah.
I reached out to Combat Zone Wrestling, and DJ Hyde actually brought me and my mom out to one of his shows. and to kind of just see it before you, like come see it, and if you still want to do this, then we'll progress.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after that, I ended up meeting the Wolfman, and I had talked to him about training. But what actually happened was Lancaster Championship Wrestling started a school, which was actually really close to me, maybe 45-minute drive. Tuition was affordable, so I ended up going there, and I trained with first with a man named Shatter, and then I trained with Adrian Bliss and Eddie Valentine. I spent more time with them two in the ring, probably about 2 years.
Chris Vant has a question. How'd you come up with the name Suicide?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've had this idea for this character since I was about maybe 14 or 15, and I was a huge fan of the Suicide character in TNA.
Yeah.
Back then, if you guys remember that, yeah. So I was
Yeah.
like, I want to use that, and of course, I'm a huge Michael Myers fan. Like, if you only seen my apartment, there's Michael Myers everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a daily thing for me.
Are you one of those Halloween 24/7 guys?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'd say.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
I work for a chip company, and there's this receiver at a store, and her entire desk is horror characters all over. Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Jason, all those. And she posts every once in a while. You know how people post how many days are left till Christmas? She does it for Halloween. It's like so many days, whatever days it is left till Halloween. Yeah. Yeah, and I've always been intrigued by Halloween. Halloween, I always liked, as a kid, I liked dressing up as my favorite whatever characters. I did there was a Halloween once where I did dress up like the Undertaker. I think it was 1996, but I wasn't trick or treating. I was sitting on my porch handing out candy at my mom's house, and I didn't move. And she's sitting there handing out candy, and I sat there, and people thought I was a statue. So the kids would walk up to the statue, and then I would look over at them like that, and then, and then they would, freak out. So, yeah, man, it's awesome. So you trained with, so you met up with the Wolfman and Adrian Bliss and whatnot. And so when was your first match? Do you remember it?
Yeah, it was November 23rd, 2013. LCW was having a show at the Lancaster Host featuring Bret Hart.
Oh.
And I was like in the preliminary matches. I was the very last preliminary match before the actual card. And the gentleman I wrestled, he is not to be named, but he really looked out for me. And that is by far one of the largest crowds I ever wrestled in front of. I think it's like 1,800 people for your first night.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And I remember the owner of the company at the time, he came up to me. He's like, "Oh, are you nervous?" I was like, "No." And he's like, "You should be." And I was like, "I was born to do this, dude. Like, finally, I waited 2 years for this because I started training at 16. You can't wrestle until you're 18."
Right.
Yeah. So I had no choice but to wait and just keep getting better.
Yeah.
Did you have the mask
with Bret at all?
Say again.
Did you have any interaction with Bret Hart at all? Like, did he offer any advice, or did you seek any advice out, or was it one of those cases of like, I haven't even had my first match yet, I'm a nobody, I can't approach him?
No, actually, I did approach him to shake his hand and say hello, and he was very polite. And it was a very brief encounter, but I did shake his hand and say hello, and he was being bombarded by workers with pictures and autographs. It was kind of embarrassing, honestly. I'm not saying that taking pictures is wrong or anything, but I mean, you could tell he was starting to get annoyed a little bit, but he stayed humble the whole time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you, when you debuted, did you debut with a mask?
Yeah. I've never shown my face, like, ever.
Ever.
ever. Yeah.
And promo wise, did you ever speak?
I didn't start speaking until about 2017, and very seldomly, like maybe twice a year.
I was going to ask about that because you break kind of the two rules in wrestling that everybody always kind of says, at least here in America, is you don't want to be under a hood because you lose your facial expressions with a mask and everything. And you don't want to not talk because if you don't talk, it's harder to connect with the crowd. So, I mean,
Right.
did you do that as kind of this was just the character you wanted? Was there a feeling of like, screw this, I'm going to prove something? Or what was kind of the mindset that went into that?
Well, they always say like your character should be an extension of your real self,
Right.
and in real life, I don't have much to say most of the time. I mean, I can hold a conversation for hours, but I usually don't talk to people unless they talk to me first. I'm kind of introverted a little bit like that.
I
But
sympathize in the same way.
yeah, I mean, I'll make you laugh. I can, joke around, and when I get going, I get going. But generally, I just really don't have much to say most of the time.
Right.
Yeah, like to be honest with you, I met you a couple times just saying hi and shaking hands before I actually had a conversation with you at all.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because I was like, "Hey, how you doing? How you doing, man? How are you?" And that's it. For the first like 3 or 4 times, and then I forget what we were exactly talking about, but that's where I said, "Hey, would you like to come on around the turnbuckle?" And here we are.
yeah. And speaking of the mask, I'm to the latest to rest. The reason why I wore a mask is because I was so young
Mhm.
and I had such a baby face. I didn't feel like anybody would believe me as a pro wrestler. So that's kind of why I was like gung ho about wearing a mask. Even though my trainers and company owners were like, no, no, you shouldn't wear it. You shouldn't wear it. I was like, well, I'm going to wear it, because 18-year-old Suicide Myers definitely wouldn't have been believable to anybody.
This is a great question that Chris Vant has for you again. Now, he asked about your name. Now he's asking, did you ever have that match yet with fans screaming and you feel like, wow, this is why I do this shit?
Oh, yeah. A couple times, actually. Um, there was this one show in Williamsport that sticks out. Uh, I was like the biggest heel in the whole town, and it was like kind of like a Hogan type thing. They're a babyface. He was really over,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a cage match. We had a table. We took the fight outside around the building, and just people were going nuts. When I watched it back the next day, I mean, I could feel it in the ring, but when I watched it back, man, it gave me goosebumps. I was like, "Holy shit! Like that's me in there."
Yeah.
And I was like, I felt like a superstar, I guess you could say,
Now,
like a sports entertainer.
some people like that word, some people don't, right?
Yeah.
But Suicide Myers, the character to me strikes me as it's easier to portray him as a heel than a face. We've seen you as both. When they get behind you, they love you. When they don't get behind you, you are natural at that. Which one do you prefer? And which one, like, really do you think, Suicide Myers should be?
Oh, he's an absolute heel. Um, yeah, the character is much better as a heel, but it's because it's been so long, it's kind of hard to stay creative with it.
Mm.
Right.
And um, not only that, but I need a strong face then too to play off of. So
Right.
you know, I can't be a good heel without a good face.
Especially with the way you're doing it, because like you say, you've got the mask, you don't talk, you look like a monster. You can easily pull off the monster, but you're right, you need that strong face to almost, I don't want to say carry the load, but like they've got to be able to cut the promo, they've got to be able to not just get themselves over and get what their part of the feud is over, but they've got to almost project on you and help you kind of draw out why you're doing it, why you're the monster that's attacking them, why your attention is on them.
Right. Yeah. You know, it's like a horror film, honestly. Um, I had this match with Tommy Vex at Triple WA. It was an outdoor show. It's on my YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and we literally played the whole match like a horror film. You know, with Mary, like I got tabletopped over her, and it was a great story. Unfortunately, the crowd wasn't into it, but watching that back, you know, I'm my own worst critic, and I hate a lot of my matches. But watching that back, I was like, man, that was pretty good. Like I was invested into it, even though it was myself. You know.
Was that
Yeah.
was that 2 years ago?
Yeah, that would have been 21. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was my first 3WA show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, outside
Yeah.
Quakertown.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Quakertown. I was invited down by Brickhouse, and because he knew my brother, and that was my first time ever seeing. That was an anniversary show outside.
That's
I,
right.
I I
Yeah.
think I remember that match.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a quick little 10-minute gig, but just the creativity that went into it, man, it was pretty cool. And he got the big win with the elbow drop off the top, and it was just a fun time.
So you've
Yeah,
wrestled.
Vex is one of those guys. Not to cut you off, Al. I
No.
apologize. Vex is one of those guys that's just another one that's kind of introverted. When you get him out of his shell, he's an endlessly creative, kind of funny, zany person. Like the Tommy Vex you see in the ring is the Tommy Vex that Al and I see and talk to in the back and whatnot. Like, there's a guy that, like yourself, is very much playing himself, dialed up to 11.
Absolutely.
What I was gonna say was, you've wrestled, a lot of SWO and locally around here. Like, have you ever branched out further than that? It's been 10 years now. So, like, how far did you go around around the country? Let's say, or did you stay
Uh,
local?
no, I did venture out. At one point, I was actually doing this for a living. I wasn't living too great, but I was able to pay my rent for a summer as a young man. Like maybe like 20, 21. I was able to
Mm-hmm.
pay my rent at the time off wrestling, which was kind of cool. It was like a bucket list thing. And yeah, I used to go all over the place back then, man. Down south, West Virginia, Virginia, Maryland. I got a Maryland state license through a company that booked me. Uh, New Jersey, Connecticut, uh, Delaware. Yeah, just the surrounding areas.
So, talk about some of your favorite matches outside of PA, because most of us and most of the people that watch this are affiliated with you in Pennsylvania, and know you from Pennsylvania, whether it be SWO or wherever else. So, talk about some of your favorite matches outside of Pennsylvania that we might not have seen.
Uh, I did have a couple tag matches back in when was that? Maybe 2018, maybe. I was going down to West Virginia a lot, and I did pick up a tag team title down there. And some of those tag matches were pretty cool, man. But I was so out of shape. Like when I say out of shape, like not that I would get like gassed in the ring or anything, but I was carrying a lot of extra weight,
Wow.
So having to move all that around, it was a lot more work, you know what I mean? So a lot of those matches, they were good, but they weren't as good as they could have been, because I was carrying all that extra weight. I think I was like 260 around that time,
Mm-hmm.
260, 265, yeah. And I was like doing dives and things like that, like trying to be that big man that can move, and it's like no, it's more efficient to be a lean man and maybe do basic stuff because then that'll save your career a lot longer, which is where I'm at
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
Right now,
Yes.
I'm like trying to be the lean guy, like a leaner Suicide Myers and a more basic Suicide Myers.
Talk about some of your favorite matches in SWO.
Oh man, well for starters, my rivalry with Sidney Porter, that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's on my YouTube channel too, like playlist, showcase playlist. Again, this was a couple years ago, 5 years ago maybe, and I look a lot different now than I did then. But again, I was that big man that could move, so to speak. But those were always fun. We got to get creative with those. Um, I like wrestling a lot of the smaller guys, like a Benny Slater or something like that, because they can move around for me,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
I could tell a better story with them. But oh, the match with Moose that I had, I don't think he was Impact champion at the time, but that match was pretty good. Like that was like right around the time I started getting in shape. I'd hired a personal trainer like 2 months prior to that,
Mm-hmm.
and I was really like kicking it in the gym and just like slimming down. I was still wearing like pants and stuff. I hadn't switched back to tights yet because I wasn't quite there. But that match with Moose, I cherished that one. That was pretty good. He was so easy to work with too.
Wonderful. So I have to ask, because you're talking about you were making a living off of this, at least to pay your rent for a summer. You were getting out and venturing out there. You've gotten yourself back in shape. You're 10 years in, sure, but you're young. You got in the minute you could get in at 18. So
Yeah.
are you still kind of like, are you in the mode of like pulling back to then spring out and really push it? Or are you kind of settling into this is where I'm at, this is what I'm comfortable with? Kind of what's the dream, what's the trajectory right now, career wise?
It's funny you say that because I'm having like an internal conflict right now as far as my career
Hmm.
because I have a family, I have children, and I can't. I've been a father since I was 18, so I had my son before or right after I had my first match. So he's always my older son. He's always been a part of this. So I remember like he would come out on the road and things like that, and so like I can't just up and leave like some guys can. Like
Right.
my girlfriend now, she like asks like, oh, what do you got to do to like be successful? I'm like, you got to go out on the road, you got to
Hmm.
travel, but that means leaving y'all behind. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? So if you wanna try to pay almost $2,000 a month for rent and the bills and food by yourself, then that's all well and good. While I'm out on the road trying to be successful, there's no guarantee.
Right.
So it's definitely an internal conflict right now as far as what I want to do. For me personally, my interest level in wrestling has gone down some. I still love it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. But I don't venture out like I used to because I'm just not feeling it right now.
You, so you have you call it a internal conflict, but you're kind of at a crossroads, right?
Yeah, yep.
You're at a
That's a good way to
crossroads
describe
where
it.
you're like, okay, do I dial it down and just kind of just enjoy what I do when I get to do it, or do I go all in?
Right.
Well.
So for me, my plan, at least what I think would work, would be to get to myself to a place financially where I can go out, which is what I'm doing now. And
Mhm.
I've been making good progression steps to do that. And then maybe take a year and just go out, venture out. It's easier said than done, but
Right.
but it'll eat me alive if I don't ever pull that trigger and actually try to really get out there, whether it be as a big indie star or a sports entertainer or whatever.
That
Even
was my next.
just to have a chance. Yeah.
That was my
Yeah.
next sentence. My next sentence was going to be that like Keith said before, you're still young, so you have that chance to, like you said, save up some money and get everything stable, everything else in your life, your family and everything else stable in your life, so you can take your shot for 3 months, 6 months, whatever. And then if it works, great. If you get signed somewhere, awesome. If it doesn't happen for you within 6 months to a year, well, then you know where you are, and you still have your family, you still have fans locally. They all want to see you. And my next thing was going to bring up the fact that you're an SWO Hall of Famer. How'd that feel, uh, receiving that honor?
And I'll tell you what, when they approached me about it, um, I was like, man, I'm a little young for that, don't you think? You know, because I got inducted, I was 26. So I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah,
You got, you got a little
I
worried,
just,
like, oh God, they're trying to tell me something.
yeah. Well, they were like, oh, you know, we want to give you the nod, you know, because you've been around for a long time, this area, things like that. And I'm just like, well, thank you, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what just kept running through my mind at the time. It's just, man, I'm a little young for this.
No, but it's a tremendous honor, and I think you deserve it. I think every time you're there, what like we talked about it before, whether you're a heel or not, you make an impact, you get reaction, I mean, you just come out and they react. And the SWO faithful, whether they hate you or not, loves to react to you. You know what I'm saying?
No,
And I
absolutely.
mean, yeah, and it doesn't matter, you know, what match the most recent SWO event, you were in a cage match with the Wolfman. But you know, no matter what happens from here on out, you know, they get excited when they hear that Suicide Myers is on the card.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't been as consistent lately either. So, you know,
Yeah.
like
I mean,
sometimes I'll take a couple months off here or there, or skip a show here and there. So, you know, maybe that makes it just a little bit more special. It does for me at least. You know.
no, I think it's a good idea. You know, it goes back to, I know there's some quarters that don't like when I do it. Goes back to what Jim Cornette always says: how can I miss you if you won't go away? You know, if you're there all the time, people, whether they mean to or not, they kind of take you for granted. You know, they're like, oh, well, he's always here. You go away for a little bit, you come back, then they remember, like, oh, that's why I loved him. Because now he's
Right.
back. Missed him so much. Now he's back. And I mean, I think too, you and Wolf as a team, I really liked that idea, and I'm sad that it didn't last longer. I hope they go back to it because I think there's some money in you and Wolf as a team for a little while, maybe going after those tag titles.
Yeah, I was having
I'd like
fun
to
with
see
that
as a
actually.
fan.
I was having a lot of fun with that, especially when we did that hardcore match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That crowd was hot, man. Like,
I was in that crowd. I was hot for it. It was great.
thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, you know, and I was like, damn, man, we really do have something here. And then next thing you know, they're like, oh, we're gonna have to turn on. I'm like, why? I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, you know.
No,
But
no. I mean, they did their best to try to make sense of it with the Ken Andrews thing and all that, and I understand it. But I mean, I know I talked to Wolf a little bit after it, and I think everybody kind of had the feeling of like, yeah, we know it should probably end in you turning on him and reigniting that, but that needed to be a while down the road, maybe 6 months, something like that. Like really establish that team and really create that sense of like he trusts you and he thinks you've got his back, and then one day he turns around and boom, you're right there with the goozle and it's choke slam time.
yeah, yeah, they definitely shotgunned the turn, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And I even said that too. I was like, man, you guys are really shotgunning this right now. They're like, oh,
Mhm.
we want to run it back at the school. Basically, that's what it boiled down to, from what I understand. They wanted to run it back at the school, me and him
Yeah.
again. So we had to get there a lot faster than we wanted to. But you know,
We have a comment from our friend down in Alabama, Greg, the Thundercats here. He says, Suicide Myers, what's up? Welcome to Around the Turnbuckle family, and can't wait to meet you guys very soon. He is coming up here in June. And he's going to hit an SWO show with us.
oh,
So,
absolutely, yeah. It'd be a pleasure to
yeah.
meet you.
Yeah. So, he comes on our show all the time, and he offers a lot of the younger talent. He's been in the business now for 17, 18 years now. Some advice, and they usually make connections. And I love that. I love that Keith and I have kind of connected a lot of guys that way, where they end up friending each other on Facebook or whatever, and just kind of talking shop, you know?
Right, yeah.
Um,
No, absolutely. It's the brotherhood.
Chris Vant is back. He's like, who do you mentor your wrestling style after?
Oh, there's only one man. I wrestle a lot like the Undertaker, and I try not to, but that dude is like ingrained in me. Like it's kind of a unhealthy obsession, honestly. No, in all seriousness, he's been a really big influence in my life. You know, 'cause I didn't have a male role model growing up, so I kind of just looked towards to him, and I was like, yeah, whatever he does, I want to do. Not like move for move, but just the way he carries himself and things like that. I was like, he was
Right.
successful for a reason. Now I'm not
Yeah.
saying that I carry myself exactly like him or anything like that, but I definitely
Right.
would say, I like to pay tribute to him quite often.
Yeah, and you also have a bit of a Kane vibe too, but of course Kane was a
Mhm.
vibe off of him a little bit, right? So I mean, you do come off as that, with the choke slam stuff and the big monster persona, like you have a Kane vibe to you too. Because my stepson, the first time he saw you, he was like, "Wow, that guy looks like Kane," and I said, "Yeah, so yeah, that's the first guy he thought about."
Yeah, I get that a lot. I get Kane a lot on my appearance, and then I get Undertaker when it comes to in-ring stuff.
Right,
Um, Again, I don't try to emulate him too much, but sometimes it happens organically, and I catch it and I like tone it down. I'm like, okay, don't do that. Um, but yeah, like I do the leg drop. I try to like flick it just like he does with the leg and
yep,
everything, like his mannerisms. Just little tributes here and there, but I also try to be original as much as possible too, which is why I do a discus lariat as my finisher. Pretty basic
right,
move.
Yeah. And being a
right.
big guy, you don't have to do anything, truly spectacular because you can do some of the basic stuff. And as long as you do it, like you say, carrying yourself like that monster, like that big guy, a basic move looks that much more devastating because you're the one doing it.
Right, right. And I do a lot of power moves. Well, I used to. I kind of toned it down a little bit, but a lot of pump handle variations, a lot of fireman's carry variations. You know what I mean? Spinning side slams, things like that. I like to figure out new ways to get into like a snap power slam, like a Randy Orton style power slam. It's always like fun to try to come up with new ways to get into that. We did a tag match maybe 2 months ago, and I like ripcord it first with uh, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank right now, but yeah, I was like, oh, let's try it like this. Let's try a ripcord into a power slam. It worked perfectly. So just trying to stay creative and have fun. But I'm a huge Shawn Michaels fan too, and it's
Cool.
kind of hard to bring him into the character, which is why I feel like when I drop the mask, maybe I'll lean more towards that, like his style.
You mean there's a sexy version of Suicide Myers? Because I don't know if I'm ready for that.
Oh man, dude, certain people have been telling me to get rid of this thing for years, man, and I just can't pull the trigger for whatever reason.
I
Um, yeah, Damien Priest, man, I used to train with him at the Monster Factory, and
yeah.
I was not a Monster Factory student, but I used to go up there with Mark Hazel, and he even told me, he's like, "Hey man, why are you wearing that mask? Like, you're a good looking guy. You need to take that off." And I'm just like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I should have listened to him. Honestly, should have."
The time is right. When the time is right, I think you'll know, and it'll be a
Yeah,
moment. Like when it comes at that point, I know you're probably gonna want to you know, pitch it to the SWO people and say, listen, like I have this idea about when the time comes, the mask comes off, and I'm sure you'll figure it out. Like it'll all kind of come to you when the time is right.
right. Yeah, that's the thing. Like without having a mask, it's like I said, I can be introverted at times, and I have like a social meter, and when that meter is drained, it's drained.
Yeah.
So
Right,
the mask kind of helps to keep me from having to socialize, so to speak.
right,
I don't have to come out and smile as a good guy or act angry as a bad guy necessarily. My body language displays it, but I don't actually have to do it. When they see your face, you actually have to do it. You have to believe it, or else they won't. They'll be able to tell it's not genuine. So I'm just like, man, if I'm having one of those weekends where I'm just not feeling it socially, I don't want to go out there and stick up a joint or just be like a mundane indie wrestler.
I got a question from Kristen. She says, "What is your all-time go-to move in wrestling out of all the moves you perform?"
Leg drop. I could hit it on anyone. Yep.
In
Definitely.
particular, like the leg drop on the apron thing, or the leg drop in the middle of the ring thing.
Just a mid ring leg drop. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Try to jump as high as I can and get a little leg flick on there. And I remember me and Tony Cheney were having this tag team match at Triple WA against Dog Nation.
Yes.
And I came in off the hot tag, did my thing, and I finished the hot tag with a leg drop. And people in that audience thought it was over. Like I never thought in my career that I could sell a leg drop as being the finish of a match, but they believed for a moment that match was over right there off a leg
Oh
drop.
yeah,
It's insane, absolutely insane.
we might have been in that crowd, Keith.
We very well might have.
Because I do remember
This
when you
would have
guys
been the
teamed
first.
up, when you guys were tag team champions for a short time, right?
Yeah. The very first match we had with Dog Nation, that's the one
Yeah.
where the leg drop, they thought it was over, and it was absolutely insane.
Yeah, and Keith and I can't say enough good things about Dog Nation. I think those guys are going places. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely, man, it's crazy. I've known them for years. The first time I wrestled Sage was we were just kids, man, like in our backyard, just screwing around. You know, I was probably 17, maybe. That's how far we go back. And Alan, I met him in Williamsport, and we did a match in front of like maybe 30 people in a little garage, like a dojo thing. And we went out there and killed it. And this was 2016, maybe.
Yeah, wow.
So,
So Keith and I were privileged to see him and actually call him in a hair versus hair match versus Tommy Vex last month. And then he lost, so he had to shave his head. And then he shows up at Schuylkill Haven last night in a 4-way to defend the 3WA Extreme Championship. And man, he was awesome as usual. It was, you know, and then afterwards we got to talk to him. Man, he's a hell of a performer.
oh yeah,
Alan. I mean, not taking anything away from Sage, because I know Sage is right up there with him. I'm saying Alan's been on a roll lately.
Yeah, me and him, we only worked once in a singles match, and that was back in 2016. We had such great chemistry, and we both have evolved so much since then.
Oh yeah,
I would absolutely love to run it back, and I've been trying to put a bug in their ear about letting me get at them. You know, so hopefully maybe we can get there before the year's over.
well, maybe you and the Wolfman versus Dog Nation could happen, and then you get in there with them.
Yeah,
If the one-on-one doesn't happen, I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. I think I'm gonna do a singles run first, and then see where that takes me.
Greg says, "Oh, I love the discus lariat. I usually cut a backflip and take a face bump on that move." I did tell you he's a wrestler, right?
Yeah. Seasoned veteran too. 17 years, I think you said.
Yeah. And you know, I've watched a lot of his matches, and he sends me a lot of his matches, and he reminds me of like Bryan Danielson, kind of that move set, kind of that look. You know, he calls himself the Thundercat. Sometimes he calls himself the Last Spartan. But you know, Thundercat, Greg Cable. But you can look him up on Facebook. Greg Winners is his shoot name there, and he loves making friends, new friends all around the country. He lives in Alabama, but he wants to come up here to Pennsylvania because he's met all these guys. He's met, you know, from this show, he's met Piranha and some of the other guys from SWO. So he wants to just go to an SWO show, and you know, if they're interested in using him, that'd be awesome. If not, you know, he's just going to come up and meet everybody in person. Keith's picking him up from the airport.
Yeah.
And when did you say he was coming down?
June, for the June show in Seven Valleys.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder if I'll have anything going on that night.
Well, yeah, you know, I was just thinking the Suicide Meyers versus the Thundercat.
Put a bug in their ear.
That's That'd be awesome. That'd be really, really awesome. You got a 10-year
Yeah,
vet, and you got a 17-year vet, man. You can't go wrong.
right, right. And I definitely made it known that I'm ready to start having some more bangers again. So
Yeah, he'll give you that.
I'm ready to work.
He'll give you that. You said you like working with a smaller guy, smaller than you, that is, that can move around, and he can do all that stuff. Like he can definitely do all that stuff, and you guys could probably do a banger. I almost guarantee it.
Oh yeah.
He's all
Speaking of
aboard
bangers,
right there.
I'm gonna. Oh yeah, I see. Yeah, man, let's do it. Speaking of bangers, to go back to earlier, probably my favorite match I ever had in SWO was against Matt Vertigo last year, or no, 2 years ago. Excuse me.
He's a big dude too, though. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, but man, that like our chemistry was amazing. So I'm just gonna shout him out real quick.
Oh yeah,
He just made his return recently, and he tore it up at the middle school. So he's
he
back,
did.
pedal to the metal. So just gonna shout him out real quick.
Yeah,
Thank you
he
for
did.
probably giving me my best match in SWO.
Yeah, I ring announced that show, and man, he had a great response. They're glad to see him back, and I'm interested to see what they do with him now. He just came back, had a couple of matches. Looks great, looks good, looks healthy. So I'm interested to see what they do with him.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully they handle it right. I think they will. I have faith in them, but yeah, he's definitely he needs a rocket strapped to his back now,
No
in
doubt.
my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Chris Vance says a crazy move is always the headbutt. Do you use it, and how is it done without hurting yourself?
Yeah,
Secret
actually I
of the
do.
trade there.
Yeah, we'll let one loose here. I do a headbutt. I do it quite often, actually. Kind of like like a no hands headbutt, because you can put your
Right.
hand up and headbutt your own thumb. Blah blah blah. I don't do that. I just tell the guy, "Man, turn your face whichever way we're coming from, and I'll do the rest." A little thigh smack in there, and it usually gets a pop every time.
Oh yeah.
Does the
Yeah,
mask help cushion it for you at all?
What's that?
Does the mask help kind of cushion the impact for you at all?
Yeah, the mask does. The mask has saved me from breaking my nose a couple times and things like that. So yeah, it definitely, because I mean it's a thick leather, so yeah, it definitely has. What I mean, saved me from a couple collisions to the head and the face.
yeah. Greg's like, yep. Turn the face, you'll miss the nose.
Amen. Yep. Oh yeah.
So
Just turn your face. Don't put your hands up. Just turn your face.
Life
coming up, coming up, you have are you going to be at Red Lion for SWO on the 13th?
Yes. I'm in an 8-man tag team match, 4-on-4, and the winners will be granted a wish, I guess, for something in SWO. So essentially, it's like almost like a Money in the Bank match, but for each person, they kind of get their own money in the bank. They can wish for something. And I mean, from a story perspective, every man should simply just wish for the world title, or the heavyweight title
Right.
shot, right?
Right.
So I'm curious to see what my character is going to wish for.
So am I.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I mean, if we win, like I don't know who's winning, obviously, but
right.
if we win, like what in the hell would Suicide Meyers wish for? you know?
It'd be interesting. Anthony Joseph is here. Gives us a Ric Flair. What's up, Anthony?
Oh yeah, ooh, I met him a couple times.
Do you pay any attention? Like, and we're running short on time, so I only got a couple questions left. But do you pay any attention to mainstream wrestling such as WWE, AEW, or anything like that?
I do. I don't have time to sit down and watch anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but I do keep up with the product though. I did watch Backlash last night.
Okay.
But
What'd you think of Backlash?
Oh, I loved it. That crowd was hot, man.
They were crazy.
Very interesting to see how they turned on Bianca Belair in the beginning.
Well, I mean, they were all about Io.
Getting John
They
Cena
were
beat.
the Puerto Rican crowd were loving Io. They were loving Io.
Io Sky. Excuse me, I
Yeah,
almost said Io Shirai. She is one of my
same
favorite
thing.
wrestlers. Yeah, like she is definitely one of my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time.
Yeah, and I thought Bianca handled it. I thought that was one of the matches of the night for me. Like that was awesome. I thought it was back and forth. They told an awesome story. It was really, really good. I thought it was better than Bianca versus Asuka for Mania. I thought Bianca versus Io was better.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I definitely would agree. Just their chemistry is better.
But I heard the word nuclear for that crowd thrown around the internet a lot today. They were very nuclear. That's the best word I heard. They were crazy explosive the whole show.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, hot
I mean,
from top to bottom.
I thought they were going to be like that for Bad Bunny and Damian Priest, but they were like that for every match. They were crazy.
They've been very wrestling starved in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I guess WWE star. Yeah.
Yeah, WWE starved. I mean, they do have WWC.
Sky showed out last night. She did. She absolutely did. She did.
Proved that she can hang and definitely be a big money player.
Heck yeah.
Like a potential WrestleMania main eventer.
I think she would have won if Damage Control didn't interfere. I think she would have won.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's the story they're trying to tell.
Yeah, yeah. You know, they're doing their thing with Bianca right now. You know, she's doing her thing. Who knows how long it's gonna last, but you know, they know what they're doing.
All right, man. Well, Professor, you got any last questions for Mr. Meyers? Because we're gonna get out of here and we're gonna welcome in our second guest of the evening.
I think we covered everything. I mean, my only parting words would be a suggestion, of course, of when you are finally ready to take the mask off, make sure to book that around the horn with like every promotion you work for. Like lose that thing 3 or 4 times. Get all the money you can out of it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
because I mean, there's organizations that I work with that have no idea about SWO or anything like that. Like,
right.
Completely different entity over there. You
know? Yep, that's what you want. Where it's like, no, do it for you, first time. Yep, yeah, totally first time.
And man, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'm just saying it's definitely getting around there. I'm starting to get stifled creatively with this character. It's time to switch it up a little bit.
And you can always come back to it, just like Kane did. Just like Taker did. Switch it up, do whatever the new thing is for a few years, and then you can either do it every so often, or maybe you can get another run. You tweak it a little bit or something, and you get another run out of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you can always go back to it, but I am one of the privileged few that have seen you without the mask, so I have a feeling that when that does happen, that Shawn Michaels side of you is going to come out. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, you're going to be that dick heelish player type guy that's going to be out there like, yeah. Now you see what's under this thing now. You know what I'm saying? You know why I covered it up? I covered it up because now all your ladies in the audience that are sitting there next to you are looking at me now.
It's funny you say that because just before we get off, I'm tell a little story from.
Go ahead.
I think it was the very last. It was not the middle school show, but the show before that, Seven Valleys. I was walking from my truck to go into the building, and some fans recognized me. How, I don't know, but maybe it was my hair gave it away or something, long ponytail. But anyway, they were like, "Oh man, oh hey, Suicide Meyers, da da da." Like, and I could hear one of them saying, like, "Oh my God, look how handsome he is," and I'm just like, "Man, stop blowing smoke up my ass, man."
I love it, man.
Like, there's definitely money to be made without the mask for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you guys are in the Lancaster area or the York area or the Red Lion area for that matter, and you want to see this guy in action, on Saturday, May the 13th, him and the rest of the SWO will be in action at Chapel Church in Red Lion on Saturday, May the 13th. And man, we wish you nothing but the best of luck. I will not be there. I've been at almost every SWO show lately, but I will not be there, but I will be back in June. In Seven Valleys.
Awesome.
But yeah, you enjoy yourself there and kick ass, and hopefully you get that wish. And I'm curious to see if you actually do get the wish, what that wish is going to be.
Right. Maybe I should just have to shoot wind so that I can see what they would do creatively.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious now. It piques my curiosity, honestly.
Absolutely, man. And that's what wrestling's all about, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's why it'll never leave you. It'll never leave you no matter what.
Oh,
So, I mean,
not at all.
yeah, so you can get that thought out of your head if it's in there. You know, it's never going to leave you.
Yeah, I tried to quit a couple times, man.
It's not going to happen. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. It just won't happen. All right, man. Well, thanks a lot. Thank you so much for your time and talking to us today. And we can't wait to see you down the road. And hopefully we'll do this again sometime. Maybe after that mask gets shed. Who knows? You know, down the road, we'll see, we'll see sexy Suicide Meyers, whatever.
I appreciate you guys having me on here. It's definitely a pleasure and an honor.
Loved it.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming on and giving us your time.
Loved it, man. All right, man. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
Professor, we're going to get out of here, and we will be back, everybody. We're going to be back at the top of the hour at 6 o'clock with Draven Reeves. Stay tuned.
Yes, sir.
You think you know me?